Okay, and let's get back to business. Gentleman with us now is with us each month. He is quite a sensation on the Internet, along with his partner George Ure. The website is halfpasthuman.com, one of the most unique websites ever. And I'll tell you right now, every time he's on, I get email. Clif, hi, is amazing, they say. And then some. Are you there?
I'm here.
You sound so stable, so loyal, so steady.
That won't last.
All right, well, at least we'll get through the first segment tonight. So how are you in general?
Doing fine. We've got 4 days here, they promise, of sun. Chemtrails, but no rain. So getting out, working in the garden, and getting the grow dome in shape and feeling good about it.
Good for you. How are you doing with your Asian martial arts?
Oh, Aikido? I go in and let the kids beat me up, and
You're
then I
still
hurt
doing
for
that,
a few
huh?
days and go back.
Question is, do you like it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a marvelous art. Yeah, there's nothing like hanging onto the end of a stick and being thrown 5 or 10 feet across the mat and then landing and rolling and standing up, all in a single move.
It's the standing up part that's the most encouraging.
That is indeed. I hate those hard falls where you sort of bounce and then skid like truck applying air brakes.
Well,
those don't feel too good a few days later.
You do a lot of inner work, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, that's
part and parcel of
actually is the Nikung. There's a component to that of that to Aikido as well. What they call misogi, or purification, and it's all that nasty stuff like going out and meditating under waterfalls, or taking plunges into the river on New Year's, that kind of thing.
Polar Bear Club.
Polar Bear, but we also do bell misogi, which is a purification through chanting. It also really works the lungs and gets a lot of oxygen going in there, and it's a very good discipline for your overall ki generation, your life force storage, so to speak.
Well, the great military remote viewers engage in, it's been called a martial art of the mind in some ways.
Interesting. Hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'd have to have the same kind of discipline and ritual and procedure and protocol.
Yep. All right. So, here we are, and where we are is damn near exactly where you and George said we'd be several years ago.
Yeah, it's really scary.
I mean, I remember what was the date? September, October last? I can't remember the date now.
Yeah.
And you guys were, on it, literally, depends if you want to go Greenwich Mean Time or not, doesn't matter. You were on the day. And what was that day? That was the day.
October 7th. Yeah.
October 7th.
Turns out October 6th was late that night we came within 3 hours of a global meltdown of the banking system and yada, 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 all this other terrible stuff. So,
That's also the first.
Was a decent call.
Decent?
Well, we can always do better, I think.
Wow.
Look at the vagaries around the global coastal phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Here we've got this ice bridge breaking up in Antarctica, but I'm not really sure that our global coastal phenomena is here yet. It might be still a month off. Because we don't see the linguistics showing up quite the way I'd anticipated.
By the way, Joe McMoneagle, the former Stargate star viewer, is the one who told me years and years ago that it was what he did was very much like a martial art. I just want to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Joe's a remarkable man. Okay. Things aren't, what did we say last year? If you like 2008, you're going to love 2009.
Yeah.
And if you love 2009, you're going to be ecstatic about 2010.
Yeah, for 2010, you're going to be just so happy. Yeah.
Something like that. So where are we, my friend? And what is
we're
the data
riding
telling us now?
a very large change wave, if you want to think of it that way. We've got all kinds of very core elements of our society and our planet that are in the midst of a very radical transformation, and we're sort of hanging on like corks bobbing in the ocean, or fleas on the dog.
Right. Flotsam and jetsam.
About it, but at least we're sort of smart fleas, and we can observe it coming and
Some
stay
are.
off the hairs that are about to get cut, hopefully.
Those who subscribe to halfpasthuman.com and get the data are way, way down the road, and that's a good place to be. This issue of people wanting things and actually they're being conned. They're being led to believe that these bailouts, and I'm talking about the average of the masses. The bailout is going to somehow fix it, and somehow we're going to return to the way things were. Right. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, I always like these great thinkers that come on in and they state it very simply by, saying, well, no, you can't grow a peach tree from rat droppings. It just isn't going to happen. And if you take a big enough view about this sort of thing, you see that you cannot capitalize banks with debt.
No, doesn't happen.
Doesn't work,
It's sheer madness. And I don't know, I guess George he has to at times, and hello, George, you've got to be at times laughing at some of this stuff. I mean, the chicanery, the lies, the stupidity, the complicity of the
corruption,
of the mainstream media.
Yeah.
All of it. It's one hell of an ugly show that's going on here. And
it's sort of for all of those economics guys, especially the long wave group and those that follow Kondrativ. It's kind of like their dessert after a long dinner. They've sort of been anticipating a lot of these effects whenever the breakup finally came. The crack-up boom, as von Mises called it.
Right.
And it's here now, so they're saying, oh, yeah, look, it's actually working. This is actually happening, and so on. And look, the politicians are actually thrashing around not knowing what they're doing. And they are going to make it worse, just like it was sort of predicted by von Mises et al.
The first bailout was obviously going nowhere, and all but 17 members of Congress who voted for it were returned to office. And this by a public that was allegedly actually angry about the bailout and seemed to be able to grasp the fact that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, but there's very large cognitive dissonance, and there's a schism that occurs. Everything you say is true. They were aware of this. They know it isn't going to work. They don't like the approach. They don't want the bankers bailed out. They don't like the fact that the corporations have taken over the public state. But as long as they're participating in the two-party system, they get what they vote for.
And they actually do, I honestly believe, at some depth or another, cling to this idea that things are going to go back to the way they were. That real estate's going to be a boom market again, and they'll be able to invest and make. They don't. No. And how do you tell them when they're in denial?
Yeah, you can't. And actually, we've gotten to this stage that we call active denial in our reports, because they're actually having to change their language and sometimes quite viciously fight to maintain a worldview that is crumbling around them, and they have to put a lot more energy in maintaining it. It's real easy to maintain this worldview. America über alles, we're the good guys, and all of this, and our capitalism is great, our derivatives don't stink to high heaven, etc., when there's a boom time of, say, the internet bubble or, the real estate bubble. But you get to the point where things start degrading. As things crumble around the average fellow wrapped up in the mainstream media propaganda, we get this strange mental effect where they're putting a lot of physical energy, calories being consumed by their brain to build an illusionary construct that no longer exists and to keep framing it and propping it up. And unfortunately, we're now at that very rough stage in the process where a lot of these people can't keep that up anymore. Their reality breaks down and they go a little wonky, and they're likely to do a lot of strange things as we're seeing show up. A lot of this will erupt out in violence just because their mind can't handle what's going on.
No, well, you're beginning to see more and more evidence of these shootings now coming every 3-4 days, it seems like.
Yeah,
they're going to be many more.
Our data suggests it may go as high as 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah, your data suggests that? I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone today, I can't remember who, and I said these are going to be almost a daily occurrence. But yeah, sure. And it will be, to, I guess, a substantial degree, a factor and certainly an artifact of the SSRI medications that are being given to everybody now. Everybody.
Yeah.
Probably more people are taking those than take vitamin C supplements.
Wouldn't doubt that a bit.
No, I'm not joking.
No, I'm not either. I mean, it's just a sad commentary, and I'm in kind of a humorous mood, and it's rather dark. And I have a personal experience with people that do. So, but no, I don't doubt that a bit. I'm sure the percentage is much higher.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's go back to the Antarctic ice bridge after this little bridge of a commercial timeout. My guest is Clif High. He's on once a month. HalfPastHuman.com is Clif and George's extraordinary website and service. So explore it. Be right back. Well, what do you think, Clif?
You were a bit dead there. I didn't hear.
Don't use that expression. I was simply quiet.
Quiet, yes.
Yes, we didn't hear any music, but we're going to pick it up because I guess those union musicians, they get a little cantankerous sometimes. Now, what about this Antarctic ice bridge?
Well, we've been forecasting for some time, a number of years, what we initially thought would be an event, and then we later changed it to be a phenomenon because it could take about 5 months to work through the public consciousness and express itself in the language. We've been calling it a global coastal phenomena. And part of it was centered in Antarctica. Logically, we just assumed that there would be a shift that would impact the coasts in terms of sea level rise. And thus we figured, okay, it would be Greenland or Antarctica. Antarctica seemed to be under slightly more stress. And then we had some linguistics about some undersea volcanoes in that region. Now, we had thought, and the data still seemed to suggest that most of the language on this event will appear after May 14th or so. And it'll take about 5 months for us all to sort of read about it, hear about it, and sort of digest it and not get all whipped up about it and a little bit calm down. I don't know what the event is per se, probably relates to rising sea level, but this ice bridge is somewhat curious because of its timing and cracking and what it means to us. If you go and read the reports about the ice bridge and the glacier that it's sort of holding, it acts as a bridge between a vast floating iceberg and Antarctica. And they're saying, oh, well, it broke, and now this large iceberg is going to go float about and eventually break up.
All right.
But that's not really the meaning behind it for most of us, because the interesting part is, without that there is now a overlip that is affected by tidal action. And so the glacier actually surges with the tides. As the tide rises, it kind of holds the glacier in place. But as the tides fall, the shift of it pulls the glacier out slightly. And so the ice bridge, to a certain extent,